What's up YouTube? My name is Uncle Smokey and this is Uncle Smokey Stock Trades. And before I start this video, I would like to say I am not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. So please take what I say with a grain of salt and do your own DD. What's going on, guys? Happy Monday to everybody. Happy birthday to you, George. We've already done the big birthday video. It seemed like he did like it. He viewed it and liked it on Twitter and everything else. So I would like to say thank you to everybody who participated in that and helped me out with it. It was a last-minute thing. It was thrown together in a rush, but I thought it was pretty cool. I had fun with it, so great. Anyhow, let's move on into the overall dealings, the happenings. What's going on with the day? What the hell happened, right? So overall indices, looks like the SPY did a little bit of a sell-off, finishing down 0.83%. Nasdaq did the same kind of move, finishing down 0.81%, and the Dow did the exact same move, finishing down 0.64%. Overall flat on the day compared to yesterday. However, what you're going to notice is if you look at these charts up here, you can see that all of them had this little spike in the pre-market during the futures hours, and then just had a nice little sell-off all day long, just this bleed all day long. A little bit strange, I'd have to say. Looking at the longer time frames on the SPY, Dow, and Nasdaq, right now this is the SPY currently in an uptrend, seeing higher lows and level highs. As a matter of fact, it's currently running across this channel right here, utilizing the $401 range as $390 range as resistance currently. Dow is doing the same exact thing, making higher lows and running along this line of resistance here at $318. Nasdaq, again, doing the same exact thing. All three indices are trading very similar to each other as far as it goes overall. Still in an uptrend, touching points, higher lows, and touching a level of resistance across the top. What you're going to notice, though, is on the Nasdaq, you are seeing the signal line below the MACD line. We're seeing green bars in the histogram, and that has been basically since all the way back here the confirmation of the trend change in the Nasdaq, as well as the Dow and the SPY. So just keep that in mind. We have seen a trend change according to the MACD. Ultimately, what we're waiting to see is the MACD to mount the histogram, and that should give us a nice bullish indicator for momentum to pour in, some more volume, more positive buying volume to pour into the overall indices. And of course, as volume pours into the indices, it'll also trickle down effect into the sectors, into the stocks. Looking at Bitcoin really quick, as it is our major tell for cryptocurrency. I've recently started viewing cryptocurrency, started looking into it a little bit, learning some about it. And as you can see right now, Bitcoin is currently sitting at a level of resistance from back here. What day was this? This was 6/16 when it tapped $23,000 and then sold off. If it can mount that $23,000 line and turn resistance back into support right here, you would see a pretty good bull run, in my opinion, at least back up towards that $30,000 range, which would make Smokey very, very happy. All right, moving on out past Bitcoin to the internet really quick. What you're going to notice here is this is our map. We'll go to the world map. Not the world map, the full map. As you can see, there is not a whole lot of green on this chart. Looks a little bit better when you're looking at the full map, but energy was the primary green market today, followed by consumer cycling, auto manufacturing, and travel. And of course, you do have banks and financing, all that stuff is going to have green market as well. But overall, the vast majority of the market did have a red day. And as of right now, the futures actually are leaning a little bit green. Let's hit refresh just to make sure that's staying up to date. And it is. The futures are leaning slightly green as of right now. Doesn't mean a whole lot because there's still a lot of time to go until we see an open tomorrow morning. So, with that being said, let's exit out of these things. Let's get back over to the charts and let's talk about Meta. All right, so Meta Materials today, kind of a move just like the markets overall, but interesting at the same time. What you're going to notice is, we did have a little bit of an uptrend coming into the open of the day, and then we had a major pop, but it pushed right off this level of resistance, which is a Fibonacci line. You can tell it's a Fibonacci line. Anytime you see these on my screen, these lines here, look to the left. Look for these numbers over here. If it's got numbers like that on it, that is a Fibonacci retracement line, which I have posted in the past, and it is obviously respecting it. The stocks almost always respect Fibonacci's. So, as you can see, it did push off this Fibonacci line. It actually barcoded for a little while before it got shorted to hell and sell-offs happened all the way down to 93 cents on the day. Barely finishing red on this day at 1.93% down. Overall, the volume today was actually relatively average, a little higher than normal at 4.66 million. I mean, well, that is actually kind of interesting because just before the offering, we were seeing like 2.5 million, 2 million, 3 million in trading. We've actually seen better volume since the offering has occurred. So I'm actually okay with the volume we've been seeing. I would just like for it to be a little bit more positive momentum. But of course, we're going to get to one of the reasons why we're not seeing that here in just a few moments. Back over to the chart, and let's move on out past the 5-minute, looking at a longer time frame to the 4-hour chart. Now, as you can see right up here, we have our offering. This was the day the offering happened, and naturally, in any single stock out there, anytime an offering is announced, you see a massive sell-off afterwards. But what we know is this was a private offering. This was not a public offering. This was not something that was just dumped into the public markets. There were specific investors that were entitled to these shares, that were sold these shares. So it's not necessarily all a sell-off here, or I should say it's not all offering here. This was fear. Pure fear. This was hedge funds and market makers shorting the hell out of it to drag it down, and so on and so forth. This was not all retail selling off. There was some sell-offs. I've said that before. Guarantee you people sold. But the reason why I say this is not all sell-offs is because when we go out here to our Fintel, love Fintel. Fintel's given me some mixed emotions, but they have really been stepping up their game lately, and they're really updating things. But anyway, if you come down here to the failures to deliver, as you can see right here, this right here is the 24th. This day right here. This was the offering, and as you can see, $1.5 million in value, so almost 1 million shares were utilized to drag this thing down. That's not a whole lot when we're talking millions and millions of shares that were traded on that day. However, look at the days following that, when the volume started to peter off a bit. Here's the 28th, the 29th, and the 30th. You've got 6.5 million in FTDs, 4.1 million in FTDs, and 1.5 million in FTDs. And yes, I am well aware that they are aggregate. You don't add them together. Technically, this number is the number that is currently listed as failures to deliver in total. But you've got to remember how market makers and hedge funds squeeze their way out of these failures to deliver. When they get their failures to deliver and they come time due, they can borrow shares against the failure to deliver to produce them as the failure to deliver shares. Basically saying, hey, here's my shares. It is actually not the proper way for them to do it. They have to buy the stock. So this will actually, it's just kicking the can down the road is all it's doing. They've borrowed the shares to the failure to deliver, or they created a swap with another broker to create that failure to deliver to disappear. Does not necessarily mean that they bought shares. If they would have bought shares, 6.5 million shares on the 29th, you would have seen a heck of a lot better price action than what we saw. Let's go back over to the chart. So, what do we got here? The 29th, right here. Right here, 29th. This is the 29th. 6.5 million shares would have had to have been bought. Now, this, right here. This is where 6.5 million shares were used to drag the price down a few cents. Just a few cents, guys. And then hold it there. Just to hold it there. We can go out to the 30-minute. It looks a little bit better. Right there. This is the... Nope, it drugged me all the way back over here. Jesus, Pete. Right there. Okay, so they drug it down and they held it here with their FTDs. Same exact thing right here and right here. And we don't have any further information than that. Like I said, every time the Nasdaq updates the failures to deliver, they're already late. You're already seeing at the earliest 15 days ago, at the latest 30 days ago. So just always keep that in mind. We're waiting to see the next amount of information come in for failures to deliver to see what happened over the course of the rest of this time. Now, we did see a major volume spike right here, and it wasn't like it was astronomical amounts of volume. To be honest, you only had about 1 million in volume, 2 million in volume tops in this little tiny section here. That was not a major coverage event. I will say that you probably saw a lot of buying in this area here, more than likely hedge funds buying, trying to close out a position. There might have been a margin call, whatever it may be, but it was not a coverage event by any means. And I would be willing to bet that there have been significantly more FTDs that have been formed coming down this far to 90 cents, where we've actually seen a nice little bounce since then and have respected it. As you can see right here, you can kind of consider this a triple bottom. 1, 2, 3 right there. Anywho, I'm not considering a triple bottom, but you can if you wanted to. Anywho, moving back out to those longer time frames, looking at the one-day chart. So on the one-day chart, what you're going to notice is that signal line down here, or the MACD line, is just below the signal line, and it's touching. It's actually right down here touching that signal line, getting ready to cross. Now remember, when it crosses, it's confirmation of a trend change. Every time the MACD crosses, it's a trend change. Whether it's up or down, it will cross to confirm a trend change. If it doesn't cross, the trend never changed. It faked you out. Right, and that's what we're seeing right now. It's just a slight, this is a doji. There's the possibility for this thing to start going up, going back north again, and that would be fantastic. I'd love to see that, right? A lot of us would. And also you'll notice we've bounced off the oversold area on the RSI as well. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is MMTLP really quick. I know I have not talked about MMTLP a whole lot until recently, and that is because finally we've gotten our S1. Now, with the S1, I do have some information on that a little bit later in the video, but we'll get to that here shortly. What I want to show you right now is how this may play out. There's a lot of speculation out there on MMTLP on what could possibly happen. There is a chance that a short squeeze does form on MMTLP before this thing goes into the record date. That is because there has been a significant amount of short selling happening across MMTLP, FTDs, all kinds of stuff. And this has been going on since MMTLP started. And then there's also the speculation that this could also be a little bit of coverage happening from the torchlight end. I don't truly believe so, but I don't want to completely say no because I'm not 100% on that. But what I do want to do with this right now is not talk about how it became, what's going on with it, oil and gas assets. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm going to talk about how to trade it, what's going to happen, okay? So as of right now, we're clueless on anything as far as it goes with the S1. We really, truly do not know any exact information on when it's going to stop being tradable, when we can and cannot trade, all those things, okay? But if this thing starts to make parabolic movements, if you start to see volume pour into MMTLP, if this does make squeeze moves, I want everybody to be prepared and have a realistic view of what can happen. First and foremost, the highest it has ever seen since it started trading was $3.20. So you need to take that into consideration. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this right here so I can show you guys how to do this. So this is MMTLP. It's on Webull, so the information isn't exactly correct. The chart's right, but as far as it goes, the volume numbers you see, all that stuff, it's not exact because Webull has just recently started doing OTCs. But anyway, that's irrelevant. So this is the one-day chart for MMTLP since the beginning of time when it started trading. And right here is $3.20. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your Fibonacci extension out, which it's this little guy right up here. If it's not already selected as this, it says Fibonacci extension, right? And you're going to go to the very bottom when it began trading all the way to the top to $3.20. And then you're going to drag it down to its low, which you could use this one if you'd like, but this is close enough. I mean, they're all within a few cents. And what you're going to notice, first and foremost, let's change the color. First and foremost, I don't like that color. I don't like that color either. We'll go back to yellow. All right. Is how it's traded since it made this move. It has most literally traded between these two channels, between 185 and $1. Right here, 110. almost perfectly, right? So anyhow, obviously showing that this Fibonacci extension is relevant because it keeps utilizing this line and this line as support and resistance. Now, I did draw up this Fibonacci up here a while back just to show you how it's moving and everything else. We're going to go ahead and delete it just so it's out of the way. It's irrelevant information right now. All right. So, as you can see, MMTLP is on top of the 50-day moving average. This blue line here is the 50 moving average. It mounted it back here. You have the confirmation in the MACD that it was a trend change, and it has been moving north. Now, what you'll also notice is the MACD is currently hooking down, crossing the signal line. And you have a big fat red candle right here. There is a really good chance that you're seeing a trend change, and that is due to the volatility that's stepping into MMTLP. So, back to what we were talking about. If this thing starts to move, if volume pours into MMTLP, if it's going to make moves, it will follow an algorithm. It's not going to just go freaking insane nuts. No stock does. You can go back and look in time at AMC, GME, VW, OTC, OTSK, OT, whatever the overstock.com was. You can go look at any squeeze that's happened, and you can draw up a Fibonacci extension from a time in the past, and I will promise you that it followed those Fibonacci's because algorithms are what control it. Anyhow, and good technical traders run off of Fibonacci's as well. So as you can see right here, what you're looking for right now is a 100% run. That's the very first stop you're looking to make. If it can crack 100%, which is $4.29, you'll call it $4.30. If it can crack that and turn that number into support, that $4.29 into support, your next look is $6.27. That's 161.8% run up from its current trading point, from right down here where it's at, right? So if it again continues on, if FOMO pours in, if the volume continues to move and it takes this and turns it into support, your next level will be $9.46. And you need to be paying attention to this level right here. This is crucial. 261.8% is a very high increase. The next line after that is $12.66, 361.8% lift from the bottom. 1463 is after that. That's 423%. To go after that's insane. You'd actually have to add lines in. But anyway, if you wanted to continue on and go up another 100%, that would put you at 20. I think it would be about $24 or $28, okay? So, in all honesty, if you're just looking for a technical move, a technical squeeze, oil and gas asset value is irrelevant in this situation, okay? Don't worry about none of that. Don't worry about what NextBridge is valued at if you're looking for a squeeze. If you're not looking for a squeeze, if you're looking to move on, ignore everything I've just said, and just call AST and get your shit done, right? Get your transfers done, okay? But if you're looking to make a move, if you're looking to recoup some money, this is how you do it. I just gave you a realistic price target for a squeeze. This $50 and $100 bullshit is going to get you guys losing money. No joke, you will lose money if you're counting on triple digits at this level. This is MMTLP. This is something that's getting ready to convert. This is going to be a short squeeze because shorts need to cover. They cannot carry a short position into a private company. They can't, all right? So they've got to offload these positions. There is a very strong possibility that MMTLP does see a move. And if it does, you're now prepared on where to find your levels of support and resistance, on where to set profit-taking levels, all right? So just keep that in mind. Now, back to what we were talking about before. I hope that better helps you guys understand where you can find your profit levels in this squeeze move that is potentially possible, okay? So, done talking about MMTLP on that front. So now on to the next front of MMTLP. Internet. All right, so the S1 hit on Friday, and there's been nothing but confusion. I mean, absolute confusion. So what I've done, instead of just creating more confusion, adding to the questions and everything else, what I've done was I actually wrote out a bunch of questions. and I emailed them. So I wrote this email out to MetaMaterials IR investors at metamaterials.com. And I'm going to wait for a response. Obviously, as you can see, it didn't get out till about 8 o'clock this evening, and that is because I was at work and I couldn't write this email. So here's what we've got. Hello, hello and good evening. I can't read my own email. Hello and good evening. Smokey here, and I have a few questions about the S1. There's a lot of speculation on the spinoff process and what investors need to do to follow through with their investments. And I am hoping to shore this up quickly, since there are a lot of investors out there, including a lot of lost investors out there, including myself. The way I am understanding it is anyone who is already registered through the AST with their preferred A shares need do nothing if they want to go long continue their investment into NextBridge Hydrocarbon LLC. Which means if you've already registered your MMTLP, if your Series A preferred shares have been registered this whole time, you don't need to do anything. You can sit back, relax, and just follow on into the next thing that this is going to spin out into. Now, if you don't want to do that, I don't know yet. All right, so, and I am also reading that if your shares are in a brokerage account or bank, then they will distribute the shares owed to the individual investors, which is exactly what happened when MetaMaterials bought Torchlight and they did the merger. The, Webull, the Robinhood, the Trading 212, all those, they took them a little bit of time. They have a couple of weeks for it to do. It takes time for that to actually come through. But they credited your account with your preferred series shares. All right, so that is all pretty straightforward. However, if the shares are not registered by the individual investor, then what happens to those shares after the spinoff completes? Are they still just as good as a registered share, or is it a requirement to register the preferred A shares? Some people are waiting to see if there is a tradable move up to the record date, whatever date that might be, on the OTC ticker MMTLP. The S1 states the shares will not be able to be traded electronically through the DTC or anywhere after, I assume, the record date. Can you clarify when the tradability will end? Is it once the S1 is approved? Is it after the new ex-dividend date, or on the date of record? Once the record date has passed, will the investor still be able to register their shares with the AST? So once they've said, okay, here's your record date, if you didn't register your shares, can you still do it, right? Or are they just stuck holding a bag for the foreseeable future? So are we just going to be bag holders with something that we can't do anything with until this thing becomes a publicly traded company if we don't register our shares to the AST? What's going on with it, right? Sorry, my nose is starting to itch. The next part I want to read here. The sentence, if you sell any of your shares of Series A preferred stock on or before the distribution date, you will not receive any shares of common stock. All right, so I'm referring to this sentence, which is on page 26 if you want to find it, of the S1. Although it's very clear, it is also very vague. At what point does the rule take effect? Is it before or after the date of record? If there is a tradable move for the investors to be able to recoup some of their long-term hold losses before the new date of record, will retail investors be able to sell into a run-up on MMTLP, on the OTC, and buy back the preferred A shares before the record date, as they have for the last 8 or 9 months, and still be able to receive full benefits of the spinoff? So I'm asking, will you be able to actually make this squeeze move that I spoke about just a moment ago? Will you be able to capitalize on it and still be able to register your shares if you were able to get your shares back before the record date? In history, you've always been able to run your run-up, let the run-up sell off, and then buy back at the bottom before the record date even actually hits. A lot of times, these moves happen before the actual date of record because shorts don't want to be caught with their pants down on the last day. That wasn't so much true for the Torchlight merger, but remember, now we're going into a private company, so it's going to be a little bit more of a true situation here. All right, so some investors have already been in contact with their brokers to get the registering of their shares process started and have been sidelined due to the broker not knowing about the need to do it per the S1 as of yet. Can the registering process be done at any time? Is there anything stopping a person from registering their preferred A shares now if they wanted to? Or do they need to wait till the S1 has been approved and the new ex-dividend date is announced? Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your response, Smokey. So I wrote out a really long email with a lot of questions in it. Hopefully, we get the answers we want and need. This needs to happen. We have a very limited amount of time. There is a deadline on this information. They've got to react quickly. They have got to get some kind of information out to the retail investors because a lot of us are lost. We just don't know what to do. And this is my beg and plea. If MetaMaterials, anybody listens to these videos, please reach out to us. Please answer some questions. We need definitive answers. No beating around the bush. No contact your broker. Please help us. We need help as investors. All right, I had to go stop my dogs from freaking out. Wow. Okay, so now that we're done with that, let's go ahead and move on to the very next thing. Before we go any further into the Twitter stuff, I want to touch base on the Ortex and Fintel information really quick. So as we know, with that sell-off, a lot of the information on Ortex has changed. So here's just a really quick brief cap of what's going on as of right now. We are waiting for this information to gear back up, for everything to start going again. Believe me, this isn't over yet. And if it is, great. I will gladly take a short free ticker any day of the week. You look at any of these big blue chip stocks, their short interest is very small because now, and that just allows them to be able to trade normally, naturally, without the fear of shorts just demolishing their stock. But if they start gearing back up, which it looks like they've been doing, and they start trying to keep this thing down at a low level, which again, they're going to try and do because there's a lot on the line for them on the MMAT side as well with the whole torch thing. You know, if they do that, we want to be ready for it. So, as of right now, utilization is at 84.11%. Cost to borrow, according to Ortex, is 31.13%. And it would take 2.95 days, we'll call it 3 days, to cover all the shares on loan, which is currently 18.75 million shares. And that is 5.76% of the free float. And that is, of course, because there is now a lot more shares available to be traded on the free float. And there is currently $29.98 million worth of short interest out there, which is 31.26 million shares, or 9.58% of the overall free float. And as of right now, the average number of days on loan, according to Ortex, is about 35 days as of now. And that means that's how long shorts have been holding their positions long. As we know, the sell-off that happened did allow for a lot of shorts to escape their positions, but I don't think that they completely closed their short position. They just did a lot of covering, a lot of borrowed share returning, things like that. As you can see, the actual short interest number is actually still pretty dang high at 31.26 million shares. That's a lot. Moving on over to the Fintel information. So they're showing basically the same kind of info, a slightly bit longer time frame to cover all the shares on loan, and they are showing a little bit more of a short interest number as well. But as we know, Ortex and Fintel both get their information from two different locations. So they're going to have slightly different data, and we use them as a gauge for that reason. Short squeeze score is currently sitting at 66.97 out of 100. That is a percentile. And they have actually just recently updated their scoring model. So there's a lot of things that factor into all of this information. And again, I have not been one to be too much worried about this short squeeze score overall, but a lot of people seem to like it. Short share availability. As of right now, let's hit refresh to make sure this is absolutely up to date, and it is. As of right now, there's 2.4 million shares available to be lent from a leading prime brokerage, which is IBKR. And the short borrow fee rate for them is 26.42%. The dark pool volume today was about 2.4 million shares overall traded in the dark pools. That is about 57 to 60% overall volume that was diverted to the dark pools today. And while we're talking about dark pools, make sure you guys get over there and see Ben Hem 612 on Twitter. He made a really cool lyrical rendition to the Sounds of Silence. He didn't sing it or nothing, but he wrote up some lyrics. It's really good anyway. Just go find him. You'll like it if you like silly stuff like that, like I do. Anyway, the short volume ratio from the FINRA, from the overall dark pools, is 47.2%. The overall aggregate short volume today was 46.49%. Now, with that being said, we did have a really nice increase first in this morning, like we talked about earlier in the video, and then it got pummeled the rest of the day back down to about 93, 94 cents, where it closed out the day. So, with that being said, we have not seen any new insider trades for a little while, basically since the last Thomas Gordon Welsh and Anna Lambert purchase. And as far as it goes with institutions, let's hit refresh, see if there's any updated info for today. We've got for today, well, actually in the recent, a lot of selling off. Now, I did go through some of these that we saw sell-offs in, and some of them were small. So I'll just pull up this one here. Look at this. 0 shares now. They had 150 shares before. Ooh, they closed out a big position there. Here's another one. This one here, this is Cambridge Investment Research. They closed out a little bit more, 15,430. That's a little bit more, but still nothing super significant. Allworth Financial, what'd they close out? 500 shares, yes. These big financial institutions that have closed their short positions and closed their long positions, they are really closing out some big ones, aren't they? Let's see what Ellevest Inc. closed out. 32 shares. Wow. Just monstrous share counts here, guys. And this one here, oh boy, 50 whole whopping shares from Money Concept Capital Corp. Jesus, Pete. Just to show you that the big long-term investors that have got real numbers of shares, they're not going anywhere. They're not doing anything. Yes, you saw some sell-offs back here during the reconstitution. You'll notice that these all have to do with the index funds, right? BlackRock, things like that. When the reconstitution happened, it changed the way certain brokerages, certain clearinghouses hold their positions. So that was a major part of that sell-off that we saw on the offering date. That is still one of my longest questions I've got as well, and I'm waiting for the day I get to actually talk to somebody from MetaMaterials to ask that question. My main question on that is, was there a coincidence in the timing of the offering? Don't tell me you didn't know. You knew. Was there a coincidence? I mean, is it, or I should say, was it a coincidence, or did you intentionally do it? Did you intentionally set the offering for that day? I don't know. Anyway, so moving on past all of this, past this, as far as it goes to the S1, I'm waiting for more information from Meta before I go spreading any more information out there on the S1. I don't want to give you guys any wrong information because this is a very serious thing right here. All right, so MetaMaterials today came out with a PR. MetaMaterials granted 2 new U.S. patents for next generation battery separators. Smokey, learn how to read. These newly granted U.S. patents are directed to our second-generation N-port endoporous ceramic separator, offering superior safety for lithium-ion batteries, and third-generation N-port ECS electrode-coated separator, which is designed to reduce the cost of manufacture while improving battery safety, lifetime, energy, and power density, said Dr. Steve Carlson, Executive Vice President of Advanced Materials and Battery Products at Meta. Together, these unique products are designed to address the key challenges facing the electric vehicle industry. Electric vehicle industry, guys. They are driving home the point that they are really trying for the automotive industry. That is such a huge market that needs a lot of assistance in the battery realm. That's basically what's holding back the entire EV sector, is length of time that a car can go and how long it takes to charge it afterwards. And let's not forget the fact that these EVs like to explode. All right. So right here, this is really good if you want to come down. Here's a little chart showing all of their patents. They are currently holding 410 different patent documents, and a bunch of them, like it's like 57 sectors overall, something like that. You could read through here and get all that exact information if you'd like to. But that's fantastic. Another bullish PR came out from Meta Materials, and as you've seen what happened, bullish PR, great information, and the stock got suppressed by shorting. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying every single red freaking tag is a short sale, but there was still a significant amount. If you will look at any of these blue chip stocks, any of these proven companies is what they call them, fundamental plays, what I call them. If you look at any of these fundamental plays and you look at their short interest, it's very small. You look at how it gets shorted, it's very low. It's a lot more of just natural market dynamics. Okay, moving on to the very last things I want to talk about, the fun stuff it is, George. So, George Palikaris is in the UK. He is at the Farnborough Air Show. It is one of the largest in the world, and this is a huge opportunity for Meta Materials to be able to spread their wings, no pun intended. It was a pleasure to welcome the Honorable Francisco Felipe Champagne, Minister of Innovation of Canada, Science and Economic Development, today at the Farnborough Air Show. Visit us at booth number 4624 in the Canadian Pavilion. This guy here is extremely important. He is, well, it says right there, the Minister of Innovation. And it's an honor for him to stop and talk with George, get all this information from him. That's awesome. Anyway, look at these pictures here. We've got, I do believe he is from Sekisui, but I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. But he looks familiar. Sin doesn't like this lady right now. Right here. Okay, so we got George, big old smile on his face. There's Dimitri, there's Themos Kalos. I think that is Oliver Seats back there. I wonder if we could zoom in on any of these. I'm not familiar with this face. Not too sure. Anyway, and like I said, I do think he's from Sekisui, but I could be completely wrong by saying that and just being stereotypical. And I apologize for that if I am. Anywho, let's go to the next picture. Okay, so this is why Sin doesn't like her. She is fucking George. Anyway, so... Sorry. Anywho, moving on to the next one. So, George Palikaris is giving us some really cool pictures. He's taking personal pictures out there, and he's sending them out to the MetaFam so we can enjoy this air show with him. Day one at FIA 2022. It's a heat wave. As a matter of fact, on the news, they said it was so hot there, they were making sure they got extra water, extra places for people to be able to go inside and cool off, fans, things like that for the patrons. Anyway, heat wave, but beautiful blue British skies, meeting innovative companies and F-35 warriors like Achilles. As we know, Achilles is a Greek god. Hope his heel's okay. Thank you for your wishes today. So he's thanking everybody for the birthday wishes. Now, here's what's interesting. First and foremost, this guy here, Rolls Royce. That is awesome. I think this is going to be a personal helicopter of some type. Hang on, lights are coming on. Ow. Oh, God. Yep, you caught it. I sat on my seat. All right. So this is, like I said, I believe this is Rolls Royce. Moving on to the very next picture. George with Achilles. Like I said, he's got the jawline of a Greek god. Pretty good looking guy. It's possible. He could be a direct descendant. But here's what's super interesting. So George took this picture, and I think there is something special about this picture. And here's why I say that. This glass right here. See how it's got a really cool color to it? How it is reflective almost, but it's kind of shaded at the same time? That is ITO, iridium tin oxide. It's very expensive, very hard to get anymore. And the military's been using it for decades. Well, Metamaterials NanoWeb is not only a direct replacement for ITO, but it is also an advancement. So it can block the outside interference from radar, things like that, trying to get into the cockpit. It can prevent the laser strikes. It can obviously give a HUD display. I mean, there's just so many clear view. All right, so you wouldn't have all of this tin looking color, this copper color. It would be completely clear, see-through windshield or cockpit area, and that's planes, helicopters, fighter jets, ships, any of them, anything you can think of. So I definitely think that he made sure he took this picture because of the glass right there. I think that's what we need to be focusing on. And finally, here's a nice little picture of the display, and there's Themos. Anywho, I really wish I could be there, but we do got somebody there. Stock Cube is going to be there, and he is going to be getting us some pictures and videos and all kinds of stuff, and I'm pretty pumped about that. Anyway, I think that's what I got for the video today, guys. I hope it was okay. I know it's really, really long. I hope I've given everybody the information they need, and I hope that we get the information that we want here in the upcoming future. With that being said, like, subscribe, make sure you comment for the algorithms, and do what you got to do. Peace, y'all.